Welcome to the Public Opinion Court, where the truth ain't reality, but opinions are. And listen, y'all, I had to come because I told y'all I was going to be on here tonight to break down day 2, because day 2 was definitely everything and more. And I was so as a former litigator, I was on the sidelines like, yes, that's how you do it. That's how you get it. That's how you go in. Like, I was super proud of how the prosecution presented their case, because they had the streets thinking that they weren't coming with no heat. They had the public thinking that it wasn't really one of them ones. And they showed why the Southern District of New York is the hardest federal court to ever try to defeat. And I'm going to say this, the only person that has beat a case in the Southern District of New York is dead and gone. God rest his soul. Irv Gotti is the only person that beat a federal indictment in the Southern District of New York. So I knew, like, and one thing that I did before we get into it, the one thing that I did is I went back and I looked at the original press conference of the U.S. attorney that laid out everything that they had, because I wanted to refresh my memory, because it's been a year. It's been almost a year. So, of course, you're not going to be as fresh on what the government said that they was going to do. But, baby, when I went back and watched that this morning, I said, no, I watched it last night. I said, oh, I got to remind y'all, because they literally laid out, and it was so simple. It was straight to the point. They were not adding any preservatives. They were keeping it raw and aligned with their evidence and testimony. So today was explosive. It was very explosive. It was very detailed. It was very heavy. And I know it had to be heavy for Cassie. So also, y'all, Tory Lanez. Do y'all want me to break down Tory Lanez also? If you want me to break down Tory Lanez also, put a yes in the chat. And also, if you are on this live, make sure you are liking, subscribing, and sharing this video. Listen, I need the same amount of likes that I do have views in here right now. So I need everybody to, it's so easy to hit that like button. But if you want me to break down that Tory, because I told y'all, I was breaking down Tory when Tory was on trial, and I was telling y'all even before that Tory was innocent. I told y'all all the mistakes that the state made, and we're going to get into it because everything is on the table. So back to Cassie. Let's go ahead and get to the get down of Mr. Freak, Diddy, Freak Off, Master Extraordinaire, Executive Producer, Master Manipulator. Y'all, this man is... And the fact that he got his kids in that courtroom listening to how disgusting of a human being. Please explain why Cassie is testifying if Diddy ain't being charged with domestic violence. So, when this case originally started or was indicted last year, the investigation started off of the civil suit. If Diddy, like I said again, if Diddy would have settled, we would not be here. And he can still be a freak and hopefully not harming individuals. But the statute of limitations for assault had ran in that particular, in those incidents. It may have still been fresh when we're talking about 2018. because theoretically, misdemeanor, it would have been a misdemeanor. So the statute of limitations is more likely 2 years per jurisdiction on misdemeanors. On felonies, it's 5 years. So what happened is the statute of limitation ran on any DV, and she wasn't trying to come after him on domestic violence. But what her petition did was put the federal government on notice. She was never trying to go after him on anything. She just wanted to be compensated for her pain and suffering, rightfully so. But the brilliance of her legal team, the way they told that story mixed with the laws, the dates, the confirmations in that petition, literally led the feds to the water, and they drunk the whole fucking lake, and they went and did their own investigation, and now we're here. So everything in that petition, what a lot of people don't understand is when you start doing crimes and you start facilitating them from one state to the next, to another state, to this state, to that state, to another country, that opens up federal jurisdiction. And depending on, I have to look if, well, no, there's no statute of limitation on sex trafficking. That's the reason why we're here, because of the sex trafficking, the transportation of prostitutions, the RICO. That's why we're here, because there's no statute of limitation. Are we just invested in what the videos show that he did to her? Because I'm confused on these charges. One, I ain't got enough time to unconfuse you, because it's very clear. It's very clear as to what is going on. When you have, and I'm gonna just spend a slight bit before I go into a RICO. You can have a legitimate business, but when you start committing crimes, you go into committing crimes under your corporation. That's illegal. So committing sex crimes, hiring prostitutes, abuse, paying, transportation, underage, drugs. What else do you need, Juan? And I ain't being disrespectful. I ain't being petty either. What else do you need? It's lined up like a fresh lineup on a Friday when you get a haircut. So let's get into it. So we're going to get straight into the meat of it, y'all, because what the government did, and I'm pretty sure the government has been listening, because the government said, oh, y'all think hold on, y'all, because one is about to take me out. I ain't gonna hold you. One is about to take me out because I'm not understanding what adults have these type of questions. Okay, back to the escorts. They had them in the courtroom. 13 former escorts were in the courtroom. They have been sworn in to testify. They were recruited and were transported, some of them from states like cities like Las Vegas, Miami, LA. Some of them flew in. But when you start transporting, they got the transportation, the third count. No, the fourth count, because he has RICO, he has 2 counts of sex trafficking and 2 counts of transportation. This is where you get to the transportation. This is also where you get to the sex trafficking. Diddy had a very particular way, type that he wanted Cassie to have sex with. If they did not have a big black penis, they could not come. He only wanted individuals with big black penises. Hence, why they hired the Punisher, who is going to testify. So I just wanted to go ahead and throw that one in there because that was very, very explosive. Because a lot of people have been saying, he can't, they ain't got nothing. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. And Cassie, they took photos to her of these escorts, and she was able to identify some by name, like the Punisher. If a man is coming and his name is the Punisher, you think I'm going to forget him? Hell no. So let's talk about 2019. This was, no, not 2019, her 29th birthday. Don't look at 2019 because they was not together. That's a typo. The names he had for these men is just crazy. Exactly. Her 29th birthday, Cassie testified that she only wanted to celebrate with her friends. This is also, if you remember her friend Tiffany, the songwriter, she came out and confirmed all of this because she was that friend who he came to her place. So she was like, she did not want to do any freak offs, and he wouldn't let up. And this was also a time when she started to wander away from him. So he, after manipulation and after just overly suggesting that she does this, she agrees. So instead of her having a normal birthday, she had to do a damn freak off. And this is also in line to when she turned 21. This was the very first time he forced himself on her with the kiss. He ruined every personal moment in her life at that time when they were together, which is one of the elements central to trafficking is manipulation. So I hope you paying attention, Juan, since your brain look cloudy about how this all is happening. Let's go back to the 2016 hotel because she made some very, very important. They added more details because this is where they left off, mainly yesterday. So they identified one of the freak off men that were there. His name is Jewel. Jewel is one of the escorts that is in the courtroom and has been sworn in to testify. So Jewel was there during the assault. One very telling, hold on, let me see if I can move this. I don't know if I can move it over because I want y'all to see it. Oh, well, I'm just going to have to bring my face forward. One of the very telling details about this, y'all, is when she left the hotel, he kept calling and calling and calling and calling. She finally got away. And what Cassie did was she finally answered and she said, hey, I made sure that, any other party that was staying at the hotel, they wouldn't call the police and the staff wouldn't call the police. So you should be good. He lied to her and said she needed to come back to the hotel because the police were on their way. After this girl had just talked to staff. So what he do? Later, he goes and he's banging on her door. She does not answer. But out of fear, she goes to his bodyguard's house that she feels like she has a relationship with, him and his wife. His name is D-Rock. And guess what his dumb ass do? call Diddy. And guess what? He comes back. So whoever the fuck D-Rock is, bring your ass to the front of the stage because you need your ass beat. You and your wife. Because ain't no way any friend of mine, I'm going to continue to put them in danger because D-Rock has a pattern. And I'm going to show y'all D-Rock's pattern. So let's get into some of the... Hold on, which one is this? The physical harm. And this is one of the elements of force, threat, fear, intimidation, manipulation. So Cassie testified on one occasion they were out at a dinner and Diddy was openly flirting with someone else. And in that flirting, she shrugged her shoulders. And you know what he do when they get back into that black Escalade? Struck her across the face. That's one that she testified to. She also testified and they showed a photo of her from September 2015 where she was recovering after being beat in her face in Las Vegas after the Mayweather fight weekend. Because Mayweather had his quote unquote retirement fight that weekend. And you know how I know? Because in August, the same day of Cassie's birthday, August 26th, I was in Vegas with somebody else. I was minding my business in Vegas. I was at the open spar event that Mayweather had. You were only able to get in through invite or if you was with a person who was invited. And I was with a person who was invited. This is the first time he had ever did an open spar with media there. So before we went to the sparring event, me and the person I was with met up with some of the people in the industry and we went to lunch at Sugar Factory. The guy that I posted in my stories, if y'all looked at my stories, let me go back to him. His name is James Cruz. James Cruz has been one of Diddy's right-hand men forever. So he was there along with some other executives and we just sitting down having a good kiki and let me get my speech together because I'm over here about to start stuttering. What ended up happening is he get a call, and y'all know I'm very observant. He gets a call and he starts acting strange. And I could hear, like, he gets up, he walks away, and he comes back to the table and he was like, oh, Diddy done fucked up again. He done fucked up with Cassie. We got to figure out how to fix this shit because it's her birthday. He just sent her roses. I was just like, in my mind, I'm like, he must have been cheating. I was like, he must have been cheating. But it didn't dawn on me until Cassie, there was a video posted of Cassie and Diddy surprising her, just showing up out the blue. And you can see in her face now when I look back, and even when I saw it then, her face looked like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, I'm trying to escape you and you keep showing up. Only for after that occasion, she gets beat up in Vegas. Do y'all see what I'm putting down? Like the pattern? Like, I did not anticipate that I was going to be there to ultimately have some type of personal knowledge of some confirmation of hearing somebody that his right-hand man, loose lips. That's why I call him loose lips, because you should not be out there knowing that you got a fucked up ass friend sinking fucking ships. And then you sit next to somebody that you knew went to law school, because I had just graduated from law school. I had just graduated from law school. And I'm sitting there like, he must have cheated, not knowing this was going to come from it. So Juan Cruz has known about a lot of shit that he's done to her. Like, I don't see any more pictures of him posting with Diddy, but I went all the way back, and if you go to my story, I posted from the sparring event at Mayweather's gym, and you will see the date, August 26, 2015. I ain't lying. I remember that. I remember Loose Lips. And if you are just joining, making sure you are liking, subscribing to this channel. So let's go to the next breakdown. Oh, I forgot, during the trip and during one of their vacations in Turks, the friend Tiffany, he hung her over a balcony and dangled her by her feet. Yeah, he did that. And they stopped being friends because of that until now. So let's talk about some more physical harm that they identified. September 18th. I don't know why he was out there doing it on my birthday, but we don't do nothing like that on my birthday. And I'm pissed off that he did that to her on her birthday, on my birthday. They were in Jamaica, and Cassie was shown pictures where she confirmed some bruising from the beating that she took in Vegas. There was another beating where D-Rock, the security guard, how she had escaped to one night, after that particular beating, y'all, he texted her and asked her if she needed some fucking ice. I'm not kidding you. He asked her if she needed some fucking ice for her eye. Then they just kept going even more into details with the some incidents. He had an after party in his suite, and she spoke to a producer. He called her into a room and beat her up. Guess who came in that forced him to stop? D-Rock and Loose Lips James Cruz. She also testified to witnessing him commit assaults against other assistants, dragging them, punching a guy named Eli. He dragged somebody in Turks along when he dangling hit her friend off of that balcony. She mentioned that she told him no, but he told her no one believed her because he made her. She got her get back at least one time. She talked about, see, this is what I liked about the prosecution, is that they kept it equal. They did not just, make it seem like she was this goody two-shoe. She said, yeah, she was drunk, because she would be induced off of opiates. Like she said, she stayed high in order to cope with the trauma. She said there was one occasion he called her a slut. And she said she smacked the dog shit. She didn't say it like that, but she put her hands on him. But she said she was intoxicated too. So she had a reaction. But she was like, yeah, I put my hands on him. Like, he called me a slut. She was like, that was one of her biggest fears, of him looking at her like a slut. Hold on, let's go to Kid Cudi. 2011 is when she started to see, a little bit before 2011, she started to see some stuff. But he promised her, and she signed a 9 to 10 album deal. Like, who in their right mind? The last person that signed a deal that lengthy, and it wasn't even the amount of albums, it was the amount of years. Nipsey signed a 10-year record deal with Big U. And that is what ultimately led to Nipsey getting unalived is because he did not want to renew that contract. But here he said that she was signed to a 9 to 10 album deal. But that he didn't turn that into albums. He turned her into a sex slave. He forced her to do freak offs to the point where she did not have the ability to even record an album. He knew that. So when people are talking about how is his corporation tied to it, one, here you go. Here you go. In 2011, she was like, you know what? They was not really, exclusive, as she could see from him. So she was like, I'm looking at Kid Cudi. So he found some communication on her burner phone through her email of her and Kid Cudi hanging out. And Kid Cudi wanted her to leave him. So what he do, he picked up a wine corkscrewer and he threatened her and said, if this keep going, I'm going to get you and him. And I'm going to make sure his car blows up in front of him and his friends. And guess what? The car ended up getting blown up. But after he made that threat, she went to her mother's home in Connecticut, this was the first time her mama seen any scars on her. And she played it down. But they took pictures of it that's in the possession of the government. And the government can do reverse analytics on a picture and figure out when it was taken. Kid Cudi also came. And Cassie said that's when she broke it up off with him because the threats were too massive. She did not want him to get hurt, but she did let him know about that car. So guess what they did? Confronted Diddy. And he lied. Kid Cudi was day and night. Mr. Day and Night. Kid Cudi was 1-on-1 because he went and said, I'm finna come to you like a man. You blew up my car because you over here beating up a woman that I'm trying to protect and get away from you. You mad? Be a man. He showed up to that man like a man, and that I know that spooked Diddy with his weak ass. Okay, next one. Let's see what else. Not that one. Oh, let's talk about some of the drugs. Cassie testified to an enormous amount of illicit drugs that, oh God, and this is illegal. One, you cannot get a doctor to write you a prescription for controlled substances that you are not prescribed and do not need. So guess what? Diddy would use doctors, and I hope they find out who them doctors are because, listen, they need their ass beat too. So it will either be written in her name or her assistant's name, and it's still in the database. So I don't know why they think shit is sweet. He would keep her pills under the sink and then would tell her when it was time, when she could take them. But there was one particular pill that drug he did not like her to take was ketamine, because he said that she would not perform or not be engaging during the freak offs, because the ketamine, I guess, puts you into a relaxed state that you be so high that you don't even have any sense of what the fuck is going on. She took so many drugs that she had to go to rehab 5 to 6 times during that cycle. She started having stomach problems. She had an opioid addiction. There was not a day that she could not take an opioid in order to cope with the day, because she was so dependent on it. She has went to rehab because of this, and she testified that she has been clean since 2022, which is a testament. because she testified to her husband having to save her. Like, when she finally made the decision to leave and she was with her husband, she had an episode of where she walked into traffic trying to unalive herself. That's how deep this goes for her. She did not have the energy to want to live. She wanted to go. So let me add, because there's some more of the breakdown to give y'all. Did I talk about? Oh, 8 is already in here. Oh, there was this on one of the occasions, because I don't know what's going on up with this, because it's not letting me add anything. Is this one? No, we already talked about that one. Which one is this? We talked about that one. Because it's not letting me add any more. I don't know why. Oh, because I was doing a video. I was hitting them with the video. Let me remove this one and add the other ones. If you are just joining, make sure you are liking and subscribing and sharing, because sharing is caring. Where is these other ones? Because she got into some things on this. This right here, y'all. This one was a really explosive one because I found another culprit. So there was an occasion where this is like one of the beginning of their dating experience. They were in an Escalade in the back of the seat, and he began to just punch her. He punched her so hard that she fell onto the ground of the Escalade, and he stomped her for 10 minutes. And this was the first time that she attempted to flee. And this is when kidnapping comes into place, because this is in this was a hotel in London. So she gets out and she starts fleeing. And guess what happens? Mr. Roger Buns, his security, brings her back. And goes and gets her, takes her to the hotel, takes her through the back, because they could not let anybody see the damage that was done to her face. And she had to stay in that hotel for a week to recover. A week. And they had the nerve to say, oh, we gave her ice cream. They asked her, why did she not leave from the hotel? She said she did not feel safe because he had access and he had relationships. But she did admit that she was in shock. Like, she was in shock after that, because like, so you putting your hands on me now in that violent of a way? Man, Cassie got her ass beat the fuck up. So another thing to break down is Cassie talked about how these freak offs would go so long to where she would get sores in her mouth, blisters in her mouth from having to engage in oral sex for so long. She talked about getting UTIs, and the antibiotics would no longer work because her body had grown a resistance to the antibiotics. So he would still make her have freak offs with UTIs. And she said that it was the most awful feeling because he required her to have intercourse with men with big penises. They had to have a big penis. So imagine the burning sensation mixed with a penis, and you have no relief. The girl was in pain. The girl was traumatized. That's how bad it was. It was so like she would have to get IV. She would need days to recover. That's why she was so invested on being intoxicated or under the influence, because let me tell you, like I said all the time, a person who is intoxicated, whether off of a substance or alcohol, cannot consent. There's no legal consenting of an individual under the influence. And she testified over and over and over again how she had to be under the influence to deal with the right now. They asked her, well, why didn't you leave? And she said, I loved him. I didn't hate him. I wanted to please him. I didn't want him to do it with anyone else. And everybody knows on the power and control wheel how that happens. How that happens. We know that. So Diddy, I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine. So they talked about some of the pictures from the freak offs were being shown in court. And this is the reaction you don't want the jury to have. You don't want the jury to make any subtle moves, any subtle expressions. You don't want that to happen. Hold on, let me plug this up. And they said the jury, one of the women gasped like this. They said two men could not even, they looked and then they turned away. That is a bad body signal for a defendant when something like that happens in the jury box. That lets you know how bad those pictures were, how dehumanizing they were, how disgusting they were, how degrading they were, how traumatic they were. That's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. She also mentioned he beat her up in 2013 because she was on her way to the Drake Canada Festival. He was like, oh, hell no. And he beat her up. So guess what? She couldn't go. Yeah. He beat her up. And what's so crazy about that is 2014. Was it 2014? No, 2013. Right before that, this was months prior. That was All-Star Weekend in Houston. And I was at Dream Strip Club. That was, back in the day, if you was in Houston during the strip club era, Dreams was the place to be because baby Malaya was that girl. But it was All-Star Weekend, and guess who was at Dreams together on stage? Drake and Diddy. So I'm like, you always been a jealous ass, evil ass man. He didn't want her to go nowhere with Drake. Drake could have pulled him. Drake could have pulled him. I believe it. I believe his fears could have came true. But what the government did today was a great display of each and every count. They gave you record, they gave you RICO, they gave you sex trafficking, they gave you transportation, they gave you each and every count. They gave you the evidence from the dates of the photos that align with the testimony to confirm the interactions. It was one particular occasion where he beat her, and it was right before it was a couple of days before her movie premiere. He beat her. She had a bruise on her leg that you couldn't see in the photos, but of course the makeup had to be put on so heavy. But they have a picture where you can still see a smidget of a bruise. She documented, she took pictures, like when she left that hotel in 2016, when she got beat at the Intercontinental, she took pictures. When she got to her mom's house, she had her mom take pictures of her bruising. When he beat her up to where she had to go to a plastic surgeon, she took pictures. Cassie did enough of a good job to create an efficient and an effective paper trail. Minus, she couldn't remember everything, but she remembered the very important moments that nailed Diddy ass to the cross. Nailed him. Today was the planning of his funeral. They were getting the obituary together. They were getting the pictures together. They were figuring out how his casket was going to look, what he was going to wear, what kind of headpiece they was going to put on his head, what kind of shoes, who was going to sing, what devil was going to show up to officiate, which lying fake ass family member who condoned his bullshit was going to be the pallbearers, who was going to be the car service, and then who was going to be in charge of cremating him, because the ground, he don't even deserve the ground to be buried in. More like the furnace. So that is essentially what they did. Like, they planned his funeral. That, because you got to go through the planning stages. This was the start of the plan of his funeral. And Cassie, let me bring this up. The end of her testimony was just as compelling. She talked about, and this is why I say fuck wealthy men. Fuck them wealthy men. The wealthy men have a different appetite for destruction. They are chasing a high that you will never be able to bring them down from. But they can bring you down. Even with Diddy being a billionaire, Cassie did not have a stable place to stay if it wasn't his, and he would kick her out. He would have access. He would take cars away. He would take everything away. He's so low down, he kicked her off of a trip because they had an argument over drugs. And guess what? She had to go stay with one of the staff members. She admitted that she told him on several occasions she never wanted to have sex with other men. She only did it to please him. She said there was so much abuse that she couldn't even recount how much, and I don't blame her. When she left him in 2018, she said that they had a closure dinner. And at that closure dinner, he asked her if she was seeing someone, and she admitted that she was seeing her now husband. Diddy came back to her house and raped her. raped her. She said he had black, his eyes looked like they had black in them, like nobody was there. He ejaculated in her and he left. She did admit that after she did meet up with him one more time, and they had sex. But here's, people are like, well, how could she meet up with him one more time? I think, and this is just me assuming, a person who has been controlled for so long, you become a trauma mate to the person that brings the trauma, because they're also experiencing trauma. And to think that all she ever wanted was him and him alone. She didn't want everybody else. So I can see from that standpoint, she didn't have to have sex with anybody else. All she wanted was him. And that is what happened. When she finally, after that encounter, she started writing a book to heal. And she sent him some chapters through her lawyer. But he didn't take it serious. So guess what? The lawyer sent the demands. And he rejects the $30 million demand, and they hit that fucking kill switch, and he settled for $20 million. But guess what that kill switch did? Led us here. And it unpacked and uncovered every fucking thing that he's done. And still to this day, she says she does not hate him. And she's testifying because she has to take this off of her. It no longer belongs to her. She got to remove this burden. And the reason why her testimony was so compelling, because it didn't come off as being vindictive. It didn't come off as having an agenda, as having a motive, as having a bone to pick or to settle something. This was, unfortunately, one of the best victim testimonies I have ever been able to dissect. Now, don't get me wrong, she broke down several times. She broke down. And who wouldn't? The good thing is she's been clean since 2022. She's in therapy. Thank God for her husband. I can only imagine how much her husband has had to see and endure. And I'm getting emotional. Like, that man came in and restored her. Like, we don't know what that man has seen and has had to pour into his wife and has had to protect her. And even in the times when Diddy had that BET acceptance speech and he's talking about congratulations, I mean, he's shouting her out. That was disrespectful. When he posted a picture on his Instagram when she announced that she had got married, then she was having a baby. That was some taunting ass shit. I'm just happy that she has the husband that she has. She has a man that is her protector. And he is so fine, y'all. That Alex is something else. Like, Cassie, girl, I can't put more into her testimony. It got me emotional because it's just, oh. So tomorrow, is the cross-examination. And the defense even admitted that they did not anticipate her to testify that way. So they got to re-up and re-strategize. And that's not a good sign. So tomorrow is cross-examination. Depending on how I feel after my surgery, because I'm getting my I have surgery on my ACL tomorrow morning because I was trying to be Gladiator Lou at this big ass age, and I just need to grow up and not do that. So depending on that, I know I will probably go live again tomorrow night around this time, just when the stuff, wears off, and y'all gonna catch it from the couch though. It's gonna be from the couch. But let's get into Mr. Tory Lanez. Mr. Tory. And if you're just joining, make sure you are liking, subscribing, and sharing this video. Tory, I've been saying free Tory. I've been talking about Tory. I've been told y'all Tory was not guilty. And I've been told y'all Tory also contributed to why he's in the predicament that he's in, because he was planning at Judge Face. And I now know he was planning at Judge Face because he knew he was innocent. He just couldn't fathom that he was going to be locked up. Because Kelsey, this is why I said when I broke this down, because it's almost, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. The law enforcement didn't do GSR on her. Law enforcement also didn't put that fingerprint and run it, because they had found a fingerprint on the gun. The government, the state gave her immunity. Tory offered to give her some money, but I feel like now he offered to give her some money so she could tell the truth and not lie. So he didn't give her that money. He didn't give her that money, young. She's struggling. Megan's not her friend no more. She can't be on the road driving a boat. They done fell out. They doing these songs. So she gets on the stand to testify and pleads the fifth. That was a red flag, because I'm like, I've never seen in my life a person with immunity pleads the fifth and still gets to fucking keep immunity. And to add insult to injury, she admitted that her testimony back then was not correct. All kinds of grounds of appeal. So what just happened, the development is she was riding a car, Loose Lips Sink Ships, LLC. That's what I'm going to name these people. I'm going to say what they are part of Loose Lips Sink Ships, LLC. She's riding a car with her husband, with the driver, with no NDA, admitting that it was her who shot 3 times. Bitch, why was you shooting at your friend? Why was you shooting at your friend? She said Tory went to reach to grab the gun out of her hand, but it fell. That explains why there was no GSR on his hands, and that fingerprint, he wouldn't have had no fingerprints on there. Megan was not there to see it, could not tell who did it, but the neighbor confirmed it, and he still had to go to trial. Let me tell you why he went to trial, y'all. Let me tell you. So the district attorney was running for re-election. And I talked about this often. When a district attorney is running for re-election, they need a big case to secure their re-election, to satisfy their constituents and people, their donors and everything, and make their name known. Tory Lanez and A$AP Rocky just so happened to run into that mill. So the district attorney at the time was like, I need some press. And that's how they ended up getting indicted on weak ass cases. And guess what? He didn't even win the election. Didn't even win the election. So what has come before? This is an unbiased individual that has no skin in the game. It has no reason to lie. Said, and didn't even go to law enforcement. He went to a journalist who was doing a story on it and said, I cannot sit back and watch this man still be portrayed as if he did something when this person said otherwise. I've been saying Tory was innocent. Actually, what's so funny, a couple of days before, this is when the jury was in deliberation. I was breaking it down. I was talking about it. I don't know how he caught wind of my live, but Tory had joined my live. He joined my live and was commenting in my live. That further confirms to me that this man, knowing that he's innocent, could not fathom that he was going to be getting found guilty on such a weak ass case. So, in my opinion, everybody needs their ass beat. The prosecutors, the judge, the former DA, they need to be reprimanded. But this is also the problem. Prosecutors have immunity. They don't get in trouble for doing the wrong thing. They get praised for doing the wrong thing. So when people are saying why Chris Brown talking about free Tory, because Chris Brown has supported him since this whole ordeal, has provided him money to pay for lawyers because he understands. I can tell you that Megan has ruined a lot of relationships from people who still support Tory. She don't want nobody supporting Tory. She don't want nobody to be affiliated with Tory. But girl, you played a part in all of that. You played a part in it. I've been told and heard that she's a mean girl. Allegedly, she give people her ass to kiss. Allegedly, she's not a good person to be around. Allegedly, she talks about people. Allegedly. But it's free Tory till it's backwards. Because when it's injustice, injustice needs to be undone. So that is my breakdown for today. Do y'all have any questions before we end this live? Because I know it's late over here and I know it's probably late where y'all are. I just wanted to come and break this down so y'all can see every step of the way. And when this comes back and y'all are able to go back to each and everything that I posted, for both sides. Like, I'm not going to be biased. When the defense attorneys do something great, I'm going to highlight it. Because I believe in fairness and giving y'all everything so that y'all can make y'all own decision. I'm just gonna break it down to make it realistic so that you can understand what it is. But if we don't have any questions, thank y'all for joining this live. Before you leave, make sure you are liking, and subscribing so you can get to the notification. So when I go live, y'all can come and enter. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a great night.